Yesterday was the first day of Brian Walsh's murder trial, and his brand new story is he didn't kill his wife, she just up and died. Brian has only recently admitted to misleading police about his wife Anna Walsh's disappearance, and also he's admitted that he took her body and he disposed of it in multiple dumpsters across Massachusetts. But he has long maintained that he had nothing to do with her actual death. And now we know what his story is going to be, that Anna simply died and he had to hide her body to avoid the consequences of what people might think. On New Year's Eve 2022, Brian and Anna had a celebration with their friend Jem, who ended up leaving around 1 or 1:30 in the morning. And in their opening statements, the defense claims that after Jem left, Brian and Anna continued celebrating upstairs. They allege that Brian went downstairs to clean the kitchen for an hour, and when he came back upstairs, he sensed something wrong. He nudged her and she was unresponsive. He nudged her again. He became frantic, nudged her even harder, and she was already deceased and she fell to the floor. After I heard this testimony, I did make my husband try to shove me off the bed onto the floor. Harder than it seems. And Anna is a relatively petite woman, of course, but still nudging her off the bed. In opening statements, the prosecution goes first, but they're more or less aware of what the defense's theory is going to be, so they kind of refute it in advance. And here's some breakdowns of what I think each side was trying to establish in their opening statements. They want the jury to understand that Brian lied to the police for a couple different reasons. First of all, it makes him significantly less credible if he's a documented liar. If he's willing to lie to avoid prosecution, why wouldn't he also lie to avoid conviction? But I think they also want the jury to understand that Brian Walsh wasted their taxpayer dollars. For 2 days, there was a massive interdepartment search for Anna Walsh. They had canine units, they had search and rescue. It was a huge waste of resources that didn't have to happen if he told the truth. They also want to establish that Anna was healthy. They know the defense is going to argue that Anna simply died, and they want to challenge the credibility of that. They bring up the fact that right before she died, Anna attended a ballet bar class and did exceedingly well according to her instructor. It's also important to the prosecution to establish that Brian had financial issues. Part of the alleged motive for Brian killing Anna is that he owed over $400,000 in a federal order. He had sold some knockoff Andy Warhol paintings as if they were authentic, and he owed money because of that. And on top of these searches which Brian made the day that Anna died, including how long does DNA last, and can identification be made with partial remains, he also searched, I am the user of my wife's credit card, she is missing. And when bringing up his financial issues that are connected to his art fraud scheme, they also bring up the fact that he previously committed crime. Usually bringing up previous bad acts that a defendant has done would not be allowed in court. But because it's connected to the financial motive, they are allowed to bring it up. The two motives that the prosecution are alleging are that Brian Walsh owed money and he could get it from Anna's life insurance policy, and also that he was aware of her months-long affair. When Anna got her job in DC, they ended up buying a house there, and William Fasto is the one that sold them the house. Later, he and Anna got closer and they became lovers. And in the months before Anna died, Brian was looking up her affair partner on social media. We're going to get to this more later, but Anna also told Brian specifically that she had a crush on this man. They also set up some facts about Brian disposing of Anna's remains, pointing out that he purchased cutting tools and cleaning supplies, and he visited multiple dumpsters, and that one of the dumpsters he visited contained suspicious items belonging to Brian and Anna. I'm not sure that this was the most effective opening statement I've ever heard. I think they could have made this way more effective, but I also truly don't think it matters that much because the evidence against him is so strong. Next was the defense's turn to speak, and they started with a choice. They were like, yes, Brian Walsh lied to the police multiple times in multiple interviews. He also bought some suspicious tools, sure, but he didn't kill his wife. No, Anna experienced a sudden and unexplained death. They also definitely kept trying to plant the seeds that while Anna is usually healthy, things have changed recently. 4 days before her death, she was so sick, which is very rare. 3 days before her death, she's complaining about stomach problems, and Brian Walsh is like, I'll buy you a plunger. And she's like, how about I buy the plunger and you buy me that Porsche? They also use this to try to establish that Brian is financially secure. They're like, he was looking up Porsches online. He was looking them up to buy them. They do the same thing about Zillow listings. They're like, they were looking up Zillow listings, so they clearly had money. Don't look at my search history, because you will catch me lurking on Zillow with exactly $0. They talk about how Anna's job paid close to $300,000 annually, and they talk about how Brian's mother is wealthy. They say she was paying the rent because that's what grandmothers do. I have heard some odd rent and living money situations. I have never heard of somebody's grandmother paying their rent, frankly. I am sure that's what was happening in this situation, but that is not what grandmothers do. I also said that if they really needed money, they could have borrowed against their kids' life insurance policy. I also say that the reason Brian Walsh lied to the police was out of fear. Quote, he never thought anybody would believe that Anna Walsh was alive 1 minute and dead the next. Yes, I literally still do not believe that, so that's fair, I don't believe it. They also claim he was worried about what would happen to his sons if people didn't believe him. The defense says that Brian did not know about Anna's affair, that Anna did a good job keeping the affair secret, that her and Brian had all these future plans together. And the defense brings up that Anna told Brian that she had a crush on Fasto and Brian didn't care. They say that Brian's lack of jealousy meant he didn't realize there was an affair, and I'm I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. I wonder what the jury is thinking. To me, this sounds like somebody who is aware his wife is having an affair and wasn't jealous about it, like didn't care. Anyway, they also repeatedly tried to establish that Brian was a good husband and a good father. He watched the kids while Anna worked, which literally, of course he did. He was on house confinement and legally could not leave. He wasn't killing Anna. No, he was downstairs while she was dying and he was cleaning the kitchen like a good husband. I'm not sure if this came up during opening statements or just during the interviews we listened to. Repeatedly, Brian Walshe talks about how he made French toast for his sons. And lastly, they also said a sentence during the opening statement that stuck out to me. They were talking about Anna Walsh's affair and they said, an affair doesn't make somebody a bad person or a bad mother. What's interesting is that this has not really been something that anybody has said. So to me, the only reason to bring up that she's not a bad person or a bad mother is if you want to plant in the jury's head that she actually might be a bad person or a bad mother. Like imagine going up to somebody who has not said anything about the outfit they're wearing and you're like, don't worry, your outfit is not ugly. Immediately the person is going to go, why would they say that? Is it because my outfit is ugly? Is that a stretch? I don't know. Let's move on. I also want to point out that the victim's name is Anna Walshe. It is not Anna Walshe. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong and she also goes by Anna, but everything I have found about her, she goes by Anna. And Brian Walsh's lawyer the entire time was calling her Anna Walshe. I just found that disrespectful personally. The rest of the day was taken up by testimony from Sergeant Harrison Schmidt. He talked about the police investigation and introduced multiple recordings of interviews with Brian Walshe. And in the interviews, Brian Walshe is just repeatedly lying over and over. He confidently and casually lies to the police about everything he was doing from January 1st to the 4th, including Anna taking a rideshare to the airport, this kiss that they share. He lied about his children waking up and seeing a taxi cab of her leaving, when now his claim is that she died, and instead of calling 911 or doing CPR or literally anything, he dismembered her and threw her away in garbage bags. It's just so beyond what any innocent person would do. They also showed multiple photos of the inside of the Walshe residence when the police came and did a walkthrough. I just want to point out a couple oddities while we go through this. One bizarre thing is that there was a hole in their bedroom ceiling, and the drywall from the hole was put in the drawer of this bedroom dresser. It was also weird because police called this the primary bedroom of the house, but then they said the defendant, Brian Walshe, was sleeping here. So I'm like, were Brian and Anna both sleeping here? Was she sleeping in the other room? What bed did he allegedly nudge her out of? They also brought up the pool in the back, which had this murky green water in it, so the police could not see into it. So they came back with the fire department to scrape the bottom of the pool and make sure that Brian hadn't thrown Anna into this pool. And I find it so bizarre that they have these three very young children. The pool isn't set up to be used at all. But there's also no pool cover protecting the children from falling into this murkiness. Before opening statements and before the jury was even brought in, Judge Diane Frenier had to handle some motions. The defense had moved to exclude the Richard Walker email, which is essentially a ransom letter that was sent shortly after Anna was announced to be missing. It says, we have the so-named Anna Walshe here with us. We had a deal worth $127,000. She messed up. We have her here with us. And if she doesn't pay back the money, then she'll never be back. And we know that the police and FBI are involved. Good luck finding us. The police immediately thought this email was suspicious because, first of all, there's no way to contact the ransomer. They call it an email. I'm assuming it came in through a contact form. There's no timeline to respond. There's no way to actually pay this alleged ransom. I'm wondering if the prosecution is going to imply that Brian Walshe wrote this email to further cover his tracks. The judge has ruled that that email can come in, but she has not yet ruled on whether Brian Walsh's previous guilty pleas can come in. There has been a question, can the prosecution say Brian Walshe just pled guilty to misleading police and also conveying Anna's remains without authority? But whether or not the judge allows the guilty plea itself, all of the evidence that led to those guilty pleas will be allowed into evidence, because all of that evidence goes to Brian Walshe covering up his crimes and his consciousness of guilt. That's everything I know about that. Today is day 2 of his trial, so I'm going to get to watching it. For now, I love you guys. Drink water. Bye!